Okay, well, stand up. You're up. You're first this time.
Bill, you got to go first.
Next question.
Oh, okay.
Next question.
All right.
Just so you can hear the question louder, I'll project. What is your position on securing our borders and a comprehensive immigration reform plan?
Okay. Point one, immigration is the fuel that fueled our nation. All right, that's an obvious and true statement. The other one is that we are and we must remain a nation of laws. This is, to me, this is non-negotiable. The biggest problem that I see in the immigration thing is that this is something that should have been done year by year, session by session for the last 20 years. I am not at all a fan of the situation that we've gotten in, where you have one big immigration reform and then let it rot for 20 years as people gradually start ignoring the law. Employers, people coming over the border, and so on. We should be tuning up the immigration policy every single session of Congress, have a look at how it works, and make improvements. Okay, that's what we should have done, but we are where we are, where massive numbers of people are basically ignoring the law in the United States. I think the principles that I would go for when I look for a fix are, first, we have to make sure that everyone is regularized, in the sense that there be an ID card that means something a little bit more than just, oh, here's my social security number. That we have a real ID program that means something, with biometrics if necessary, so that employers can have an unambiguous and quick way of verifying the employment status of Americans, and Americans can have a way of verifying their employment status. And so if that system is in place today, then there would be a problem that big sections of the economy would shut down. And so that once we've established the rule of law, then we have to very rapidly come to appropriate compromises with the businesses that absolutely depend on these, make it so the fees that they pay into the programs for which they use non-documented aliens appropriately reflect and correct for the load that these populations are putting on our education and health systems and so on. I guess this is not really a 2-minute, something that can be answered in 2 minutes, but I hope I've given the outline of the way I think about this problem.
Okay, good. John?
Well, I disagree that we're a nation of laws. I think that we are a nation of hope. I believe that America has in the past been a beacon of hope and opportunity to other nations as an example of what other people might seek to be. I take a more progressive humanitarian face on this issue. I believe first and foremost that none of the bills before Congress at this time address the root cause. And this is all big business trying to find cheap labor. And it began with the passage of NAFTA in 1994. Big businesses rolled down to Mexico, set up shop called maquiladora factories, abused workers' rights in Mexico, jobs left the United States, and I will want to see, as part of any comprehensive immigration reform bill, a law that closes our borders to big businesses that want to outsource jobs. And I've put forward a plan, because right now international trade is governed by the World Trade Organization. I believe it should be governed by an organization called the World Economic Organization that respects human rights, workers' rights, environmental standards, and that any country that wants to trade with the United States should live up to the same standard that we have, because we are at this time lowering our standard to that of third world nation status. Instead, we can lift up third world countries to our standard by implementing a World Economic Organization, so trade is governed by labor and by environmental groups, women's rights groups, human rights groups. Secondly, we have to provide some legal path towards citizenship. The bureaucracy is atrocious in this process. Many of my friends married foreign wives while I was in the military, and it took them 3 years before they could become legal citizens and work in this country. The third issue is securing the border, which I believe is part of a national security discussion, should be removed completely from the discussion of immigration reform. Thank you.
I disagree with Bill Forster 100% on his national identity card. I am opposed to a national identity card, biometric or otherwise. What we need to do, I fundamentally believe that's not for America and not who America is, and I would oppose a national identity card. What we need to do is secure our borders, not just for immigration issues, but because of national security issues as well. We need to have a strong border with Mexico, one with Canada. It's the largest unguarded border in the world. We have to make sure that terrorists, drug traffickers, and also illegal immigrants don't pass through those borders. Plus, we need to increase funding for the Coast Guard to protect our shores from the same concerns, particularly concerns that terrorists and drug traffickers can bring their wares in through our ports. We need to have comprehensive immigration reform. It includes a number of different aspects. One is we do need to modernize our visa system. It's stuck in the 1970s, early 1980s. We have to bring it into 2008. We have to realize that, in fact, immigration is a good thing in many parts of our economy. It drives part of our economy. We need to work with our businesses and with our families to ensure that we have a modern system that meets the needs of everyone. We also need to give a path to citizenship for the 12 million undocumented workers or illegal immigrants, whatever your language is for them, so that they become citizens of the United States and they pay taxes. And finally, we do have to implement, once we have secure borders, and only when we have secure borders, all of this has to be done together comprehensively. We have to have a temporary worker visa system so that we can allow into workers on a temporary visa so that they can either meet their families or meet the needs of American businesses. And those will be tracked with high-grade computers, so we'll know exactly who's coming into the country, and we can track them to ensure that we know where the immigrants are once we have our secure borders. And I want to make sure that you understand that these temporary workers visas are not to allow a two-class system. We have to make sure that once those workers are in, they have the same rights, the same labor rights, and the same protections as other Americans. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
My name is John Lash. I approve this message.